Hello and welcome to the Gothic Unicorn. Today I've got a random little make for you that was inspired by a crafty bargain. So let's get on with it. I was in the supermarket a couple of months ago now, and I spotted these in the reduced section. Now these little wooden sticks are actually basically like a big matchstick, and for the price that I paid for them, to get 400 of them was a really good deal. This packet actually cost me, I think it was 45 pence. So, you know, there's so much potential in 400 of these. If I wanted to use them for a floor, I could, which is why I bought multiple packets, as you do. And they've been sitting looking at me ever since. But I've had an idea that would work perfectly with these, and that's what we're going to make today. There was a time, not all that long ago, when you saw an awful lot of what I'll call raw, untreated wood furniture. Lots of storage units and things like that. Shelves, that kind of thing, that you could finish yourself. You could paint them, you could stain them, whatever suited. And they were all in that sort of light wood, probably a pine, and they were pretty reasonably priced. Now these reminded me of some of the stuff that you got which were marketed as shoe shelves. They were just a simple design where you'd got a number of shelves, normally 3, sometimes only 2, but normally 3, that you could store your shoes on, and they came in a little box and you had to put it all together yourself. And my idea is to actually make a kind of similar piece out of some of these. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make the shelves. Now I'm going to be making 3 shelves, and I'm going to be using 5 of the sticks for each shelf. Now I've played about with this a little bit off camera, and I had thought that what I could do is use additional sticks to line them up, but I think I'm going to try and use the lines on my mat. And what I'm going to try and do, which I'm trying to do as I talk, is I'm going to line each one of these sticks up against a line, and this will put them all in position, hopefully, to make the basis of my shelf. Now to keep the shelf together, I'm going to be using another couple of pieces. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick these on to the first one. So I'm going to put a blob of glue onto each of these, and I'm going to put that onto there like that, and I'm going to hold it into place for a minute to try and ensure that it stays something like. Now I'm going to make 3 shelves, so I need to make sure that they are the same size, and doing this using the lines on my mat works perfectly. You could make yourself a jig with a piece of paper, mark out how far apart you want them, and work from that accordingly. This is just hopefully going to make life a bit easier and avoid that step. So I'm going to leave this to dry now for a moment, and then obviously I've got to trim this piece off these pieces off, because I didn't want to cut it until I'd done the shelf because of getting the length right. So I'll be back with you in a moment. With the glue dry, it's just time to trim off these excess bits, and I'm just using my craft knife, and a firm rocking motion seems to be the best. Sometimes you can actually get it to go all the way through, which we'll see if this one will do that. Yes, it will, but if not, as long as you're at least half of the way through, you can snap it off, the last bit, and file it down with a bit of sandpaper or a nail file, which I need to do with this one just to make sure that it's nice and flat. So that's the shelves completed. Now we are going to need the uprights. For the uprights, I'm using the craft sticks that resemble popsicle sticks, lollipop sticks, depending which country you're in. And I've cut these down to a measurement of 2¼ inches, I think it is. And they're not 100% straight. But what I will do is I will make sure that they are straight at the bottom, and then I will sand it off at the top when everything is glued and cured. So I'm going to begin, obviously, to the front, 2 at the back. Now you could use the sticks, the sort of matchstick style sticks. This would actually be in keeping more with the original shoe rack that inspired me. That has got pretty much, it's all exactly the same wood, but these matchsticks are not very forgiving. If you want to do something like that, I'd recommend that you use an actual square dowel and cut that to the sizes that you want. These are not very forgiving when you cut them. I find that it's better if you can actually use them in full length pieces. So I'm going with these for a little bit more rigidity for my final piece. I want it to actually stay together, and so obviously there's more here to glue to, which is going to make my life easier. Using one of my shelves as a guide, I have placed my pieces of craft stick on the lines on my mat, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a good amount of glue to the back of the cross piece, and also to the edges of the shelves. And what I want to do is I want to get that cross piece in line with the ground, and put that into place on both pieces. Now I'm going to leave this to dry for a while because I need to do all the pieces on one side before I stick the pieces on the other side. So I want to make sure it's dry, and I need to make sure that it's dry at a right angle. Now I could bring in my Lego bricks or just plain bricks. There are a couple of Lego ones in amongst these, and do it like that. Give it some support. That would be brilliant, but you don't have to, you could just hold it. This means you can get on with something else, but we will be back when this glue has cured a bit. To stick the next shelf in place, I've actually brought in some more bricks, which I have decided is going to be the height of my gap, and I've fitted that into place. And as with the first shelf, I'm going to put glue on the cross piece and the back of the last piece of the shelf, and I'm going to have to turn this a little bit so I can see. I'm going to put this into place against those bricks. This is just my little rig at a bit of a jig, I will be able to prise the bricks out. Honestly, they're not wedged into the gaps in between the pieces. And if I've actually got this right, I should actually have allowed a slight amount of, what do you call it? A slightest of gaps anyway, which I think that is going to work. So again, I'm going to wait for that to cure a bit before I put the final shelf into position at this end. This is just my little bit of a sort of easy trick. It only works obviously if you've got bricks lying about, but yeah, if you've got kids, there's probably bricks lying about somewhere. Just walk around in bare feet for 5 minutes, you'll soon find one. I've moved my little spacer and I'm now going to stick into place my top piece. Again, glue in the same places. It should be enough to keep this stuck in place, I hope. If not, I will be telling you all about it at some later point in time. Now, as you can see, I have got extra bits on my uprights behind it. I fully expected this. I will sand those off and tidy it up, but I may just leave it sticking up a little bit, which the uprights on the shelf that's got thicker uprights, they do that. They actually come above the level of the shelf. So I will just tidy it up. So we're going to let this cure, probably for a bit longer than I have been doing with these bits. And then I can stick the other pieces onto the front or the back, depending which way you look at it, and complete the shelf. I left the shelf unit a good hour and a half to 2 hours to actually allow the glue to really cure. It was difficult. I'm not going to lie, it was difficult because all I kept wanting to do was pick at it, poke at it, pick it up, look at it and get it finished. But I made myself do it and here it is. So to glue on the other uprights, even though this will actually sit up as it is self-supporting, I'm going to apply glue to the ends of the cross pieces and the sides of the shelves on one side to begin with. And you'll notice I've still got my little brick jig in place. This is just because it will help me to hopefully keep things nice and straight. And we put the first one on top like that. Now I'm going to repeat the process for the other side, but what I am just going to do is I'm going to turn my little brick thing around, which I'm not. I'm going to put the glue on and then I'm going to put that in place. That actually makes more sense. You could use wood glue for doing this, but wood glue does have a much longer drying time. Realistically, that needs to be left overnight, a good 24 hours to cure, and I've not really got the patience for that. Not for a project like this. And make sure that's into that corner and we'll push that down. And hopefully everything will stick. So I'm going to let this dry a bit and we'll see if it's actually straight. It was looking good before I put these two pieces on, so fingers crossed it will work. The glue has set to enough that I actually feel confident sort of moving it gently. So I can show you what my finished shelf unit looks like. Obviously this is a very basic unit, it's a bit rough around the edges, but that's the kind of thing that this furniture is. I will definitely find a place for this. I'm not sure where it's going to go yet, but I will find a place for it. Now, you can paint it if you don't want the plain wood. I would say to paint the pieces before you stick the shelves together using the uprights, simply because getting in between all those little bits. If you want to stain it with either a actual wood stain or with an alcohol marker, that it's better to do before you actually start gluing anything, because stain won't take over glue and you'll end up with a mess. But aside from that, I've got quite a nice little shelf unit. I'm going to leave it like this. I'm not going to bother painting it. Now, I did have a little bit of a mishap. When I was doing the shelves, I had to redo one because one came out a little bit smaller. I'm not sure what happened, but it did. But I've got a shelf that is slightly smaller than the others. Now, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. Excuse my stomach, please. My thought is I'll keep it for a while and see if I do anything with it. If not, it's not the end of the world. But I am thinking that in a modern-ish bathroom, you could use it as one of those wooden bath mats that you do get. That'd work quite well. Another idea. But I could also use it as a rack in a kitchen, or maybe a workroom, that kind of thing. I don't know. Probably won't go to waste, but this might be a while before it emerges again. I also, while I was waiting for the glue to dry, played about with sticking some of the leftover bits together. Now this is the end bits of the cross pieces. I glued them together and then I trimmed it down so it's vaguely rectangular. It's not perfect, but hey ho. And then I've coloured it afterwards with an alcohol marker to give it a sort of stained wood look. And as you would find with a board of this kind, you get different colours depending on the different individual pieces of wood, which is kind of cool. If I was going to use this as a board for a chopping board or a prep board of some kind, I'd probably give it a thin coat of matte Mod Podge just to seal it, and then stick on whatever I wanted. Again, this is a piece that I will probably put away and pull out at some point in the future. It was just an idea that I had. You could obviously make your shelves in this way by gluing the pieces together, make a nice solid shelf. That's up to you. It also shows you the kind of look that you might get if you decided to use pieces of these to make almost like a parquet type flooring. I think it's a bit thick, to be fair. I'd rather have something that was thinner even than the craft sticks that I've used for the uprights, if I was going to do that, simply because of the ease of cutting it. If you've got to cut that many pieces to make a nice decorative floor, you want it to be more of a wood veneer thickness. But yeah, there's a couple of other ideas that you can do using the same basic idea. Before I bring this video to a close, I just want to address why I'm making another shelf stroke storage piece. I firmly believe that the character of a miniature scene, be it a straight up scene or a room, house, whatever, lies in the details. That's why I focus a lot on details in my videos. However, you can't get the details in unless you've got a framework on which to display them. And that means you need furniture pieces. As I see it, you start off with your backdrop, which is your wall coverings, floor coverings, whatever the sort of basic structure of your scene is going to be. And then you have the pieces, the furniture pieces. These are the pieces that will hold the details. And then the details bring in the story quite often. These are the bits that you can reveal a lot about what you're trying to say without having to stand there and tell everybody who looks at your piece what it's about. And obviously shelving, storage units are a great way of bringing those pieces in, because you can't just put them on the floor. You want them to actually be visible, and sometimes you don't even want them to be visible, you just want that clutter there, but you need somewhere for the clutter to sit. And that's why I seem to be making quite a bit in the way of shelving, storage. It's just how my miniature world works. Obviously yours might be different. This piece is kind of a bit more modern, but I reckon if it was painted or stained a dark colour, you could put it into any kind of fantastical scene without it sticking out like a sore thumb. So yeah, that's why I make a lot of this kind of thing. Also, it's a fairly easy piece that you can make yourself. Furniture, miniature scale, can get really pricey. It can cost as much, if not more, than pieces for the full-size home. I'd rather spend my miniature budget on pieces that I cannot create myself. Something simple I can make myself. It can stick in the back of a room, it can hold stuff, nobody's really going to notice it once it's dressed. That's my kind of reasoning, and hopefully, you know, you've sort of started to get that, seeing how I put things together. So anyway, that's why I make quite a bit in the way of shelving and storage, because I can. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please like, comment and subscribe. And if you do subscribe, consider ringing that notification bell so you know when I upload. I generally upload once a week, normally on a Friday, and at the moment we may even be into a set of scheduled uploads, in which case it'll definitely be on a Friday because it will have been set up probably a month in advance. But yeah, anyway, until next time, bye.